Hey, welcome back to the Travel Winds podcast. My guest this week is Eric Christenson. He's the CEO and founder of, or co-founder, I want to say. I want to make sure I get that
Close enough.
of Nutrient, which is a survival kit company with actual real food, good calories, the whole thing. I can't wait to hear more about it. What's the background of Nutrient?
You kind of hit it on the head. We are a different kind of emergency food company. We're a different kind of food company and a different kind of emergency food company. I like to say that we're actually not a food company at all. We're a freedom company that happens to sell food, happens to sell survival food and other kinds of food. And we can get into that a little bit.
Sure.
But it starts with this idea of we believe food should free you, not fail you. And so much of our food today is failing us
Terrible. Yeah.
with empty calories, with just over processed, ultra processed food. Whether you buy it in a grocery store or buy it in a restaurant, so much of that is just not doing what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
And the way food was intended to do, to nourish us with the nutrients that are out of the ground, really, right? Whether it's a plant or an animal, with a meat product or whatnot, because in this race for productivity, so many of the food manufacturers around us have taken a path of efficiency and profit at the expense of health and nutrition. So we're trying to get nutrition back into food, and we actually do it with fortification. We start with real ingredients, and we have a chef here on staff that designs all the products. But we start with real ingredients, and then we fortify them with 40 essential nutrients, your vitamins, minerals, omega-3, 6, fiber, your 9 amino acids that you need from food sources. There's 40 essential nutrients, and that actually gives your body and your mind everything it needs to get through not only every day, but certainly stressful situations. So that's our shtick.
So, but so the food's not necessarily bug out or survival product. It's probably you can just have like the brain products and
yeah, no,
those.
we have three main lines. One, and we started this company in 2020. Said, hey, COVID's a great time to start a business. Let's go do that, right?
I'll tell you, a lot of companies did it though, because you had time sitting around going, what should we do next?
Yeah, except who's going to come to the office? We actually stayed open through that whole period of time, and that was an interesting time for sure. And we learned a lot, obviously, as a society and all that. But yeah, no, because people were afraid to go out shopping, and supply chains were completely disrupted as well. You couldn't get, you couldn't go to restaurants, you couldn't get the food that you wanted, that you needed, and where did you go? Well, you went online, and we were set up at the time. There's a different kind of company going here that was more sort of your everyday subscription idea, nutrition-based food, but there was no, real volume, no real business. And so I was brought in by the investor of this company, and he hired me as CEO, and I created the brand from scratch back in July 2020, July 4th, 2020, Independence Day, purposefully launched on that day.
Yeah.
And that first week, Pete, we sold 36 cans of our food. This is, survival food, what comes in sort of this 36. And it was mostly to ourselves, but it felt good selling something. So, and we've just kept trucking since then and learned along the way. And we've gotten a little bit back to our roots with some everyday kind of foods, cereals and coffee and that sort of thing. But then the newest thing, as you mentioned, is this brain care line that is intended to be an everyday thing. Nourish your brain with the nutrients it needs to last your entire lifetime.
Was the bug out part of it on purpose? Is that something like in early 2020, you're like, man, a lot of people are starting to buy this stuff. It's something to think about.
Well,
when I couldn't buy toilet papers when I got worried.
Yeah, never pass up a toilet paper display again, right? Never. Exactly. Always grab 6 rolls or whatever it is there. We all learned that one the hard way for sure. Rationing little squares of toilet paper to get us through the week. Yeah, that was crazy.
My daughters thankfully had a source, so they
really
hooked me up.
I think people, I think I remember about resorting to paper towels. Bounty, the quicker picker upper. I don't think we had to use it on a regular basis, but we were, I think, down to some scraps there. But.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But is that kind of how you got started with the company? Was it something on your forethought before COVID, and then
No,
it,
no,
no, okay,
no. I've worked in big food manufacturing, consumer packaged goods, fast moving consumer goods
the
for
biggest,
the
not
big
big,
guys.
the biggest.
Yeah, yeah. Started P&G
Yeah.
on the Jif peanut butter business, which is a great prepper food, and then to Campbell Soup, which also is great prepper food, and then to Purdue Farms out on the East Coast. Purdue is the biggest chicken producer out there, and was the chief marketing officer for that outfit for about 6 years. And then I was recruited out here by the investor with a phone call. Hey, we've got this idea. We have a structure, a facility. We're set up to do food. We're not doing much. Can you come out here? And we'd like to try emergency food. We'd like to try survival food. The investor's spouse was more into prepping than he was. But let's face it, the health crisis made preppers out of all of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't think we had preppers out there that were, that were necessarily pointing their finger like, I told you so. But the rest of us got on board real fast, didn't we?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what we talked about before. It's like I remember. I mean, you didn't want to, but you were like, man, if they can't get toilet paper on the boats, what if they run out of food?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. And we've had a lot of concerns. I mean, there's always disruptions.
yeah,
And I call them eventualities because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And they'll come at us from all kinds of different angles. So here's an interesting fact. 77% of people, this FEMA does a study every single year, and it's about readiness, preparedness. This past year study in 2023, 77% of people said that they believe that they will be impacted by an event. 77% of us, okay? 50% say that they're ready. So think about that, opportunity, right? There's a lot of people that believe something is going to happen. And the biggest thing is power outage. That's the number one concern. Things going dark. And you're in California, and you know what it's like when there's
you go
not
dark
only,
anyways. Yeah,
mandatory brownouts, right?
yeah. I
And
I don't think people. I think most people think they're ready,
mhm.
but I don't think people really think they're ready.
Yeah,
Meaning, I mean, get rid of power and water, and then see how the world turns. I, I, I've told people in the last couple of years I bought an RV, and so I travel in my RV, and I go, I think everybody should live in an RV environment because you have a finite amount of water and a finite amount of power. I may have solar panels and all that, so it's growing, but when you get in that, and all of a sudden you're like, you're washing your hands, or you're doing the dishes. Now I'm like, turning things
yeah,
off.
you're rationing it. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
and I think people think they're ready for an emergency situation, but I don't know that they're really ready.
Well, uh, every time I turn on the news, I see somebody being rescued
Yeah, well,
from
yeah.
from something. I mean, look at Houston right now with all the
Flood.
flooding. Yeah, it's amazing, and that's right now. I mean, we haven't even hit hurricane season.
So,
Um,
tornadoes went through Oklahoma. I was watching that last night too.
yeah, I mean, all the time. You don't know when you're going to be without the conveniences that we take
Yeah,
for granted. The FBI, CIA, not to make this a dark situation, but they 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 just caught massive amounts of malware that's being installed by foreign nations. Um, I don't know if they were sponsored by the states, but that could, at the snap of a finger, take out electricity, take out our banking,
yeah,
take out commerce, take out water, because everything's controlled now, right? With computers and electronics. So it's some serious stuff. And if you could imagine, they actually run drills at military facilities every now and then. I was in the military, as you know, you read my background, and it's not enough. But they actually are doing exercises now where they will shut down an entire post for a whopping 8 hours. Like, okay, can you survive for 8 hours? Now, we all know it's going to last much longer. And oh, by the way, they announce it to everybody. Oh, hey, on this day we're going to have a blackout. We're going to have a blackout drill. Everybody's going to be without power for 8 hours. So you just sit and you got through. You got through, right? 8 hours. You can do anything for 8 hours on your head.
That, especially mentally, you can prepare for it coming up.
Yeah, totally,
Yeah.
totally. But at least they're doing something. They're taking it a little bit more serious because military installations will be targeted. Again, I don't want to freak anybody out. I'm not afraid. I have peace like a river, as I like to say, peace like a river, because I'm ready, and I'm ready in more ways than just the physical ways. So you can't spook me, and that's our message here. Just don't be afraid. Just prepare.
Lahaina, like I just opened up a store and a new store in Maui, Makua up country, because they all closed down during COVID. I had 4 stores closed down for my day job in Hawaii. But Lahaina, where they had the fires, I just watched an update on it. It's been 8 months.
Yeah.
And they haven't even scraped the homes yet because they don't have enough contractors and FEMA workers to let people back on on property they own. But they're having to pay mortgages on it and
It's
defer
insane.
all this. It's been 8 months, and they're not allowed, the homeowners aren't allowed to clean their own property
Yeah.
because
Something's not
FEMA has to
right.
go down 6 or 8 inches or whatever to get to the fresh dirt and the asbestos. And then it's an island. So what the other issue they have is they don't know where to put the ash because no one wants the toxic ash in their yard.
Right.
So where do you put it? It's like it's an island.
Wow. Wow.
You put it on a boat and bring it back to the U.S. How much would that cost?
Oh man. Can you imagine?
No. And then all these people are like literally living without homes. And they lost everything, man. This guy was walking through his property. He was a fireman. He walked through his property, everything, because he was
Tragic.
fighting the fire. His
It's
wife
tragic.
his wife was a firefighter too. So they couldn't even save their own product, their own house and goods.
Mhm.
And now they
So,
can't get back on it.
so these were older homes that had a lot of asbestos in the structure.
No, well, I'm sure they did, but they said because they were what they were spraying down and all that, and then
Oh, I
uh,
see.
and then just the burnt ash. I mean, it went down to nothing. Like there was nothing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mm,
so that's why they have to dig down. But then every community was fighting. Like, don't bring that into our community.
right. Right.
So they got to
Right.
truck it somewhere.
Yeah, they do. That's crazy. It's
And you never
crazy.
think about that, But
No, you don't. I mean, that's again
that,
8 months
that's losing everything.
later. They're still fighting. They're still fighting to rebuild. I mean, to clean
Yeah.
up, not even rebuild, to clean up. Wow.
Well, so when people say, "Oh, I'm ready," it's like, I hope you are, because I mean,
Yeah.
they lost everything they own, clothes, shoes, everything.
Yeah. It's tragic. It's
Yeah.
tragic. Yeah. And to your point, it's a little bit more difficult, a lot more difficult logistically because they're so far away from civilization, the mainland and everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Tough stuff.
Well, so that goes back to nutrient. I think you have your army experience and then the big guys experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now you're into a medium size. Are you medium size yet?
We're on our way to medium size. Well, we're still small. So, it's liberating being a small business.
Yeah.
It's liberating, but it's also, man, I've lost a lot of hair and a lot more hair. And I've got a lot more gray and a lot more wrinkles because it is very stressful.
Yeah.
We got people on payroll. You're worried about that. You're worried about cash flow. I do have a generous investor, but again, he has expectations too, right?
Yeah.
And so these are things that you never had to worry about really when you're a cog in the wheel at a big company. And I was pretty senior in a lot of those companies, most of those companies, but still, you were part of the machine that had been built over 100 years. Purdue is 100 years old. I put together the celebration for Purdue's 100th anniversary, and $6 billion, but they started somewhere. I don't have 100 years to wait till I'm 6 billion. So, but like I said, we started at about 36 cans that first week, and
significantly more now.
yeah, we're doing okay. We're doing okay. We're closing in on about 10 or so million, which is I think a screaming trajectory. And we've done most of it online, our own website, nutrientsurvival.com, and then Amazon and Costco. Done a couple of Walmart things. Our big push again is with the bar. We're trying to get into retail, crossover into retail. Survival food isn't something you go to the grocery store
Right.
and seek out, really. I mean, for folks like you and me, survival food is a couple cases of Campbell's soup and some big 64-ounce jars of peanut butter, right? That's survival food. But there's layers of survival food that you need to be thinking about, emergency food.
Yeah.
I always talk about layers. If you can grow it, that's the best layer. Grow it if it's in season, or if you can harvest it. It's a lot harder to harvest animals than people think, a lot harder to fish than people think, to catch something, right?
Yeah. Well,
So you,
but yeah, they're trying to catch hundreds of fish, to increase their profits and everything else versus you going out and catching the 2 or 3 fish you're going to eat for the day or next day.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's
And
right.
then obviously killing animals, which is fine by me. It's a lot harder than everyone's like, oh yeah, hey, go track down a deer and see. It's
Yeah, it's
like going
hilarious.
fishing.
Hunting is not easy. I'm not a hunter at all. And my brother is a big hunter. My father was, and I have tremendous respect for hunters. It's just nothing I've ever gotten
Yeah.
into.
Yeah.
And I'd love to. I've always been an animal lover, and I've carried that with me. I don't enjoy hunting at all. I've hunted, but I don't enjoy hunting.
Right.
But anyway,
I'll go fishing, and it's the same way. It's like, I mean, people are out there fishing for their food. Yeah, it's different. Like I'm out there, I only caught 2.
no, it's hard, and you come home skunked
Yeah,
often.
whatever.
Yeah,
Go to the store and get my cod.
that's it. That's it. Run down the store, get that little, canned tuna or whatever.
Exactly.
Now the commercial guys, they're hauling in, gosh, millions upon millions. I heard some stats the other day that were just mind blowing, but I can't recall all the details. Just suffice to say, there's, commercial fishers. They got mouths to feed. I mean, at Purdue, this will shock you. Purdue was the third largest poultry producer in the United States after Tyson and this company called JBS that was actually owned by a Brazilian company. And Purdue harvested 14 million chickens every single week. Okay. And they're number 3. So 14 million chickens. The chickens are growing. They're getting bigger. It's not like you can turn the spigot off. They're coming. You need to do something with those chickens. And the amazing thing is, after they were harvested, they would get sold and people would eat them, whether at restaurants, Chick-fil-A's of the world, or tray pack chicken, from the grocery store. But those chickens went somewhere. And again, Purdue was small, and that's just in the United States. It's seriously 14 million, and that's the lines run 140 chickens, process 140 chickens a minute. That's how fast these producers are harvesting animals. That's chickens. Yeah. So, I mean, think about that. I mean, and running 2 shifts a day, and it's mind blowing the scale at which our infrastructure. And so that's the lesson out of COVID. Like, we all took that for granted, that the chicken would always be there because it's always been there. But okay, now you don't have guys delivering grain trucks to the farms. Now you don't have the hatcheries open. Now you don't have people that are coming to work to harvest. If you remember, President Trump had to order the meat workers back to work, if you recall.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So as a national imperative, So anyway, that's the type of disruption you just never know. We had I think a practice run with the health crises, and sadly, I don't see things getting any better. But again, peace like a river. Just prepare.
Yep, that's all you can do, anyways. I mean, I'm getting to that age where I'm like, oh, okay, I'm getting to the end, anyways. It's all good. Don't worry about my daughter, my grandchild, but
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, me too. Me too. They have no clue, do they? Isn't there an app to do that, Dad?
Well, yeah, that's a whole different. Yeah, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
One thing I want to talk about is you have a really cool giveaway coming up, or it's
Yeah.
going on right now, and kind of share with that. That's pretty cool.
Well, I'm glad you asked, because I think you're a guy that has a lot of perspective on this one. So the giveaway, like I said, we are our freedom company, and we are putting our money where our mouth is, with what we do and how we act. Yeah. So what we're doing is we're giving away a piece of land, a piece of freedom, and so we're calling it the Piece of Freedom Sweepstakes. And literally, if you go to the website, we're running this thing through, I think, September. you can be you'll be amazed and inspired by some of the places that you can go out and own a piece of property. It's truly the American dream, you know.
Yeah.
It's why I remember scratching together enough money for my very first house in Lawton, Oklahoma, and the sense of pride and satisfaction, right? Of like, that's my name on that mortgage and on that deed, right? But we want to help people get started and or break away and have their own piece of freedom. And for a lot of people, it might be buying the lot next door, right? And expanding their space. But however you want to deploy the prize against buying a piece of land, we're going to be there to support. So it's land costs a lot, but you'd be amazed at some of the places you can get 5-10 acres for $10,000. So that's kind of our idea. We're giving away $10,000 towards a piece of land, wherever you want to go, wherever you choose, even if it's not the full amount, will be a really nice down payment and contribution towards that piece of land.
Right. And you literally, I actually looked it up. You can't, there's many states where you can buy property for under 10 grand.
Yeah.
You know, it
Well,
might be a half acre in some areas. It might be 3 acres in other areas, you know, but then you start looking, is there a water source close by? Is there,
well, you got it. So you've seen some interesting places. Where would you, Pete, where would you put your flag in the ground? Say this is going to be home.
wow. See that's a tough one for me because my daughter's in Tennessee. I actually like Tennessee. I like the politics for now. Um, the sales tax, the corporate tax.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's some advantages to moving to that area.
No income tax.
Um, I don't want to live in the desert. Been there, born and raised in Phoenix.
Okay.
Not that I'm against 120-degree weather. I just know I'd want to.
Yeah.
Sedona was nice, but I mean, you know, then you start getting into nothing in California, almost nothing in California.
Right. Right.
Um, yeah, I mean, I saw that and I'm like, literally the street over from me, there's a tear down house. It's a million four,
Yeah.
and they bought it to scrape it so they can build up another house on it.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Right?
That's
A
it.
million four for the lot.
Yeah.
That's like 8,000 square feet.
Right. Yeah. We
That's a
we we
quarter
can't
acre.
we can't get you all the way there on that one, but
No,
there
no.
there, there are places to break away.
Yeah, Tennessee,
And
the South, Alabama, Oklahoma. Um, you could probably you don't want to be in West Texas, but East Texas, there's some good property. Um, Louisiana's not bad. You get a little north on the north side of that Mississippi. You know, I don't know. There's some good areas,
yeah,
and 10 grand is huge as
it's
far
it's
as
not
what
it's
what
not
you're
chicken
giving away.
scratch. Yeah,
What
for sure.
what do they have to do to does it just go to the website? Is it entries
Uh,
per product or
Pretty much. I mean, there is no purchase required. It's a sweepstakes. If you do place a purchase, you automatically get an entry. And I think the team has some promotional things throughout this period where they're going to double points and so sign up for our newsletter if you haven't already. And some of those things will be announced that way. But yeah, basically every purchase is an entry. If you don't want to buy anything, that's fine. You just follow the official rules, and it basically tells you to send in, an envelope or a letter asking for an entry, and then you get entries that way. We've had a lot of people do that, by the way. So it's a good way to, for 32 cents or whatever. What are stamps these days? 60 cents? Why did I say 32? Yeah, I
honestly,
don't
I
know.
honestly don't know.
I think it's 60. They took the prices off them.
I
Now
know.
they're
I just go and say,
forever.
"Can I get a book of stamps?" And they go, "Yeah," and then I put them on, and
Yeah.
they mail
Yeah.
out like 4 things a month. So
It was a great concept to come up with this forever stamp, right? Because it lasts forever. Whatever you want, you don't have to worry about what the price is. And yeah, so we're putting little inserts into our
there you
current
go.
customers' orders and reminding them and trying to get the word out that way. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be cool, and it's really neat to talk to people and understand what they would be thinking about when, like you mentioned, water,
Yeah,
and a lot of the places you mentioned are sort of naturally temperate and warmer. You know,
yeah,
really warm in the desert, but that's a choice. You don't have to live in the heat. You don't have to live in the cold. Like Wisconsin, I moved from Wisconsin when I was a kid.
yeah,
My parents did, and and they said, well, have we ever thought about moving back? Like, why would we want to go back in the cold?
yeah.
So there are choices in life, right?
Well, my family's from Cleveland, and my wife's family's from Detroit, and I have a couple aunts that still live in south of Cleveland. No one lives in Cleveland anymore. Uh, Same thing with Detroit. We have a couple of aunts and all that, but a lot of them moved out. And my dad. I don't even think my dad ever went back to Ohio after he moved out. He's like, nope.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Family's probably one of the reasons that you're locked into
yeah,
a spot, right? Being back east, there's just the the structure of families. There's so many Italians back east, and the family is so important. They just can't imagine moving anywhere else. This is home. This is where I grew up, where my kids grew up, where I will die. And
Detroit's like that. Cleveland's like that, where you
yeah,
just have the communities and the
yeah,
church. We got married in the church. We die in the church.
right, right, right.
Baptized in the church. Everything else.
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
What part of Wisconsin?
So yeah, it was central Wisconsin. So a place called I was born in Marshfield and then uh, lived in Burnhamwood, Wisconsin, which was near, I guess, Wapaka, that kind of area, maybe north of that. Small town, and lived in a little stick house that my mom and dad bought, a 100-year-old house, and they just started rebuilding it. And we moved away when I was 9. I did the math the other day.
Okay.
I've had 13 different mailing addresses in the United States. Not, so I'm way beyond, like, I visited all 50 states. No, I've had 13 places where my mail has been sent, forward to
I think I could
within.
beat that, but yeah,
You think so?
yeah, I think so.
All right, we'll have to do it someday and check it out.
Yeah, now you got me in my head going. Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
it's gonna be close. But,
yeah.
so did you play in the Dells
Oh yeah, Eau Claire Dells, of course, for sure. That was a blast. I remember that. I haven't been there in ages.
and the Ducks? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Is that what they use these days? They use those ducks.
yeah.
Okay, because those can be dangerous. Got to be careful. We had a one that sunk in the Delaware River when I was in Philadelphia, and that was a big deal because a number of people died. They were not properly, you know, equipped to withstand
Well, I'm
a
glad I
sinking
didn't
duck.
meet you before I was on that trip.
No, it's a great concept. I think they've had some struggles because of the tremendous amount of liability out there. I don't know. I'd have to. They're a lot of fun, though, aren't they?
Yeah, it was a blast. Yeah, the worst part about Wisconsin is the mosquitoes,
Oh yeah, for
and
sure.
I literally used to joke, tell people it's a state bird because I just get bit up. So I mean, these things are
Yeah,
huge.
yeah, yeah. They are.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was in the army, and when I was in Panama for about 2.5 years, I spent some time in the jungle. Let me put it that way. And man, the jungle is a tough, tough environment, tough place. Uh, it's wet,
All the
it's
time.
hot. It is. You're muddy, you're sweaty, you're carrying a rucksack for a week. Usually, our training exercise is about a week in the jungle because it would just tear you up. Your feet would get so wet. You hear about jungle rot, foot
Foot rot.
rot.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's a real thing. Even after a week, your foot starts to turn white from all the water and just sitting in wet socks and puddles all day.
yeah.
Um, and then you hit the hard pavement because your feet are so soft. I remember doing road marches. When you pop out of the jungle, you take a road back to the post, and maybe it's a mile, 2 miles, something like that. Easy stuff. But you have a ruck still on, probably weighs 30, 40 pounds maybe. Um, and your feet I'd have soldiers where their bottom of their feet would be completely torn off,
Yeah.
and like a raw piece of hamburger, the skin would just fall off from going from soft jungle to a hard road.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you soften everything up, and now it's just,
Oh,
oh man.
you just rub right off. So anyway, it's a real thing. But bugs, man, bugs in the jungle, not fun. You learned how to keep them away. Um, yeah, and the stuff that the military issues for bug juice, insect repellent called bug juice. It came in these little bottles, and you put the stuff on your face, and your face would turn numb. I mean, it would literally numb up. You couldn't feel.
That's why
So
the bugs didn't want to get near you. They didn't want.
so I think I lost a few sperm count in that one, but yeah, just that nasty stuff getting into your system. But it worked.
Well, yeah, the bugs would die if they bit onto your face.
That's it. That's it. So yeah. Anyway, good stuff.
How much traveling are you doing now? I mean, with the nutrient company, because I'm sure there's food shows that you have to go to, and then there's the Walmart show that they do in Bentonville. If you can get invited to that, I mean, how much traveling are you going?
I'm lucky. I think these days I'm probably doing about a trip a month. That's maybe 3 or 4 days.
Yeah,
Um, I've had some family things where I've had to take care of as well, and so that's adding a little bit of travel. And then my son swims competitively at Notre Dame, and so it's great to travel to see him now because he's always swimming here, swimming there, and so we do that as a family, or maybe we'll play man on man. I have a daughter as well, so someone will have to stay here, someone will go see him, and kind of swap with my wife
yeah.
and whatnot. But I think I'm a pretty pro traveler. I'd say, I've got some rules of thumb that I'm a light fighter by nature. I try to carry 6 pairs. You're a fancy guy. I noticed that you're a very stylish, fancy guy. So you must carry a big bag with you.
Well, I actually no, everything's relative, right? Compared to my wife, I'm an incredibly light packer.
There you go. Well, just the hat alone. I mean,
Well, well, it's what I sell, so I kind of
yeah,
have to.
yeah. That's cool.
Literally what I do. So,
Yeah.
but
Well,
I'm actually gotten so much better because I do travel so much. I mean, I can sit there and go, okay, I'm going to need X amount of underwear. Here's how many socks I'm going to need. Here's how many jeans I'm going to need. Here's the shirts. I'll bring a few extra just in case something happens to a shirt. You know, whereas I used to just pack only what I needed, and then I'd spill something or whatever.
yeah.
You know,
Well,
and if I sell
nice
clothing, I can't be out.
you can always run in a store, and that's the nice thing, right? When you're traveling, if you run out of underwear or you
Yeah,
have
yeah.
an accident, right, you just pop in and grab some.
But
But I always overpack typically, so I used to it, so I've gotten to the point where I count the number of days, and the only thing I won't skimp on is underwear. It's how many days, that's how many underwear I'm bringing.
yeah,
Okay.
so
Everything else, I count the days and I divide by usually two, because I don't know. It just, I always overpack, and it's a learned approach to what's right for me. And my wife, of course, is the opposite, and she gets
yeah,
so frustrated that here I am carrying this this little duffel bag,
yeah,
or if I can stuff it all in my backpack. Uh, I think one of the biggest challenges for me when I travel, though, is remembering to take out my personal items.
yes,
My knife, my
yeah.
CCW, that sort of thing, and you don't want to walk through a TSA with that hardware. Very
Our
expensive mistake.
our sales rep who lives in Reno, he has um he has Nevada, part of Idaho, Utah, and all of Nevada. But he took a trip back to our corporate office back in Denver and forgot to remove his CCW, and
Yeah.
that was a big to do. Apparently, they
Oh,
didn't like that.
they do not like that. I've heard stories.
Oh, he was he I think he missed the entire day because he was supposed to fly in, and we're like, "Where's Jade? Where's he at?" And they're like, "Yeah, he's gonna be a little bit. He's still at the airport."
Well, it's expensive. You don't get that weapon back.
No, no, and
Yeah,
they wanted to know really stringently why you were trying to get
that's it.
a weapon onto a plane.
That's it. Thank goodness. Thank goodness for that, for
I did that
sure.
with a little pocket knife. Because at the trade shows they give out this, they give out this. So
Right.
they gave me a just a little 2.5 inch pocket knife. And so I just threw it in my backpack, not thinking anything of it. I flew from LA to Denver with it. No problem. It made it
Really.
through.
Uh-huh.
Because on the way back, they're like, we need to go through your bag. I'm like, all right. They go through
Yeah.
the bag and they found it. I'm like, wow, that was there 2 days ago when I got here.
You need to keep that to yourself. I don't want
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
knowing that LAX, I don't know where you fly out of. There's
Like
a ton of airports down.
the most stringent was Bozeman,
Okay.
Montana, because
Yeah.
they do TSA training up there.
Oh, okay.
The guy warned me about it. He's like,
Yeah.
"Hey, give yourself a few extra minutes because," and they did. They actually stopped me. Went through my. They didn't like my stapler because it had like a grip handle on it. So when it went through,
Oh, yeah.
so I don't carry that stapler anymore.
There you go. Wow. Carrying a stapler while you travel. That's
It was just a
there.
grip handle, because
Yeah, this a little guy.
here it is right here. Look,
Okay.
it would come up on the thing.
Oh my goodness. Look at that.
See the grip?
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's what they
Yeah,
said.
totally.
So now I have to keep it here.
That's interesting. Yeah, because people probably do try to disassemble weapons
Sure.
and and reassemble on the other end. I'm sure that happens. Hopefully not a lot, but I'm sure that's part of the strategy of moving a weapon through the system. Anyway, I don't want to get one thing that I got stopped for was I had a USB lighter, and they stopped me for that, and they were going to take it, and then they had to bring in a couple other people. It's the coolest little thing. I don't know if you've seen these, but it's a all-weather lighter, and it puts out an arc
Oh, okay.
like this. Yeah, and it's awesome because all you need is charge, and the toughest thing is just getting it into a candle or something like that. You have to be able to.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that's the trickiest part about it, but it's a cool little device. But they stopped me for that. I'm like, that's kind of weird. But
that's, and I don't mind. I mean, it is what it is. It's not like you can argue with them.
yeah.
And that little pocket knife, they're like, "What do you want? Do you want to check it?" I go, "No, just throw." I go, "It was a gift. It was. I don't need it.
Right. Yeah.
But
Sort of disposable.
now I'm pretty careful. I try to be.
Yeah, you have to be. You have to be.
You
Well,
live
that's good. I tell you, one of the best things that I ever got was certainly the TSA pre-check has been great. I haven't done the clear yet, but then the other one, we traveled a lot internationally. My wife is Panamanian. I met her when I was in the service. Yeah, the global entry, fantastic. You walk coming back into the States, literally walk up to the kiosk. You're not there for more than a second. It already has identified you, and it's printing a ticket by the time you walk up to the kiosk. I mean, it's not insert your papers. It's here comes the little ticket. You take it and you walk right through. It's like, okay, thank you, Bernard, right? Because Bernard's my first name. Amazing. The amount of time and how efficient that system is great.
It's pretty incredible. Even like I use TSA pre everywhere, and I forget how nice it is until I have to travel with my wife because she's not TSA pre, and so I go through the normal lines with her, and I'm just
she needs to get on board for sure.
But
My
she
whole
only takes
family's
like
got
one
it
trip a
now.
year. She only flies like once or twice a year, and
it's still worth it.
I know, like $75 or something. It's crazy. It's so worth it though, especially LAX. I mean, when I'm walking past the lines, I'm like, ooh, there's 45 minutes of my life I don't need to spend standing in line.
That's it. That's right. So how did you've come a long way. I was looking at some of your earlier material. You've come a long way with the podcast. You're not just talking travel these days. You talk to all kinds of different people about different things.
Well, the common theme is everyone travels though. Like, I mean, you have to travel for your job because you would have to hire somebody if you didn't want to travel, and musicians have to travel if they want to earn money now. They have to tour. Athletes, same way. I mean, whether they're NFL players, and I mean, I talked to one guy, he had just gotten let go by the Saints, got picked up by the Panthers, and then got dropped by the Panthers and got picked up by the Seahawks. So he lived in 3 different states within several months, and then got let go by the practice squad. And that was it. He was retired at 26, 25. So the common theme was always just people that have to travel and business people, because that's what I do. I mean, obviously I'm on the road 120 to 150 days a year, which it was more pre-COVID, because we don't travel back to Denver as much and all that. But yeah, I mean, it's just it's a common theme. Like there's just certain things, people that travel a lot. Musicians travel more than anybody I talk to by far. I mean, I couldn't do that job.
Well, okay. So one of my favorite music videos of all time is Journey, Faithfully.
Yeah.
And that's all about being on the road. I mean, the whole song is about being on the road, right?
Yeah.
And then I was talking to my kid the other day because we're big fans of the Highwaymen. Yep. Johnny Cash and Chris Christopherson and Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings. And like, I wonder if it's because they were always on the road.
That's exactly why.
Yeah, it has to be, right? Not because they were fond of the highway.
There's a Chris Stapleton song called "The Traveler," and that fits My first guess was Hunter Keir. He's a two-time world champ steer wrestler. He's a cowboy, and they're traveling 150 days a year. About depends on how many roadies they pick and all that. But that was his calling. The Traveler was his music song on his phone.
There you go.
You know, because that's what
Well,
he's doing.
well, you got to go to the people. I think the common theme here, I mean, if you're in sales, certainly you've got to spend a lot of time on the road because you got to be with the customer.
Yeah.
And to your point, we've found technology now as a nice enabler, and companies are pretty happy about this too, right? Well, I don't have to send somebody because think of the productivity you're losing when you're not in front of a customer, you're not at your desk, you're in an airport and you're hustling to get
driving
from taxi. Yeah, I mean, so a tremendous amount of benefit to companies and increasing productivity because they're not having people out on the road all the whole time. But it's not the same. It's great to speak with you. I'd rather be speaking to you in person over a beer or something. But this is cool, right? But we've gotten very accustomed to this, and it's great. But if you're in entertainment, you've got to go where the crowds are, and you can't play the same crowd every night. So whether it's singing, dancing, rodeo, playing sport, comedy, that's all part of it, right?
I talked to 3 different comedians during COVID. And it's like, what do you do if you're a stand-up comic and you can't stand up in front of people? So they were trying to do these Zoom things. They would have a Zoom concert, and but like you have to mute everybody, so because you don't want to hear 30 out of the 100 people laughing because you can't hear yourself. So now you're doing comedy with no feedback, and you're looking at different screens to see if anyone's smiling.
That's horrible.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely horrible.
Comedians were because musicians could at least play. Like they could play and put something out and release a song. You could go on iTunes and go on YouTube and they could do something. They could do interaction. But comedians, they need that feedback. And it's like a salesperson. We used to do, like I used to go to Denver 4 times a year, and now I might go once because they just realized, hey, we could do this via Zoom. We don't have to fly in, 18 people from around the country for 3 days. No hotel, no food.
Exactly.
No
exactly. So the only the big drawback is the experience. If you're selling an experiential product, if you're selling food like we are, sure you can send sales samples.
Yeah.
But there's something. We just went to Expo West that was down in your neck of the woods at Anaheim, and we brought our new Brain Omega-3 bar there, and we had samples out. And the best part was, I mean, there was probably 60,000 people coming through that show. It was huge, massive. But the best part was the immediate feedback, because nobody's seen this bar, nobody knows about this bar, and the claim to fame is it has as much omega-3 in this little bar as a fillet of salmon, but without the fishy taste. We use figs and other ingredients to encapsulate the fish oil, so it's pretty amazing. And so actually, we have a patent pending on it now, but it's amazing because it didn't taste like fish pills or fish oil, like a lot of people taking cod liver oil.
Yeah.
And the best part was, first I would say, can I give you some brain food? And like, oh yeah, okay, sure. People are pretty sampled out at this show anyway, but they'd come over, they'd be nice. I'd give them a little sample. And well, first I'd say, you don't have any food allergies, right? Make sure that they're not allergic to fish or something. And like, oh no, okay, great. Try it, take a bite. Okay. I said, what you're eating right now is our brain bar that has as much omega-3 as a fillet of salmon, but without the fishy taste. Like, wow, and you don't get that kind of reaction. You don't get that kind of feedback in a Zoom.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's awesome. And the same thing if you're selling it to a buyer that's making decisions to bring in your product or not, or stock your SKU on their shelf. You can't. It's just not the same, right?
Like we sell cowboy boots, and because it's a cow, it's a real animal. And they have different colors and skins, and so I can show them a flat 2D picture of a cowboy boot. I have some stores that if I don't bring in the actual sample, they won't buy it, because you look at a boot on a picture that might have been color matched or cleaned up or saturated or whatever, and then they get the real boot, and you're like, the same boot.
Right.
So
Now the same rule in food.
Yeah.
Nobody's buying off a PowerPoint anymore. I mean, they haven't for a long time. If it's not real, if it's on a PowerPoint, if I have a sample box in front of me and it has a UPC and it has the ingredients and there's a product in it, okay, now it's real. And now they've been burned enough, right?
Yeah,
Where
exactly.
they're just not going to do that. They have a shelf set, a planogram with a product that never existed. Now they've been burned before. So it doesn't happen. You have to have real sales samples before you have any discussions about, yeah, okay, we'll bring it in.
Well, that's I would think that would be the hard part for a food company because it's a tremendous amount of investment to get an actual product versus, I mean, that's where it benefited you having the investor because how do I come up with a product that if I don't know if I have sales and I can't get sales if I don't have the product, that's the quandary, and that's where the big guys come in and squash the little guys.
That's it. That's it.
'Cause they
Yeah,
have
I think that
yeah.
is an important lesson that we've learned here. I'm sorry to interrupt. Uh, with our direct consumer approach, um, at big companies, it takes a year to produce to create a product. I can create products and get feedback from consumers.
Yeah.
In probably 2-3 months. Literally, it can be that fast. There's still investment. There's still R&D. There's still a lot of that's tied up in bringing a product to market. But I don't have to, the selling approach is much different because I can go direct to consumer. You think about, your business, a traditional retail, grocer, CPG company, it goes from the manufacturer through a broker to a distributor to a retailer, finally to the consumer. And this bar, I can sell it for, let's just hypothetically say $2 to my price list. It ends up in front of the consumer for $4. I mean,
Yeah.
that's how much, right, margin is tied up in all these different steps along the way. You know it, you see it all the time.
Clothing is so much worse.
Yeah, no, the margin requirements, right, because of markdowns and everything else, styles, and I can't imagine.
It's so hard for me to shop now. Like, I mean, I went to the magic show, which isn't it has nothing to do with magic. It's actually an apparel show. It was a huge show. It's in Vegas twice a year, but they have manufacturers from around the world, like the actual factories. The people that actually make it, and then you have the brands that hire those factories. But we were in the African section of manufacturers, and I was with the footwear designer, and I know what we retail these shoes for, and he'd go up with a sample and say, "How much?" Oh, FOB's, $6. I'm like, holy shit, what?
Yeah,
You
right,
know,
right.
it's landed in the States for $6. Includes
Yeah,
freight. God, and I'm trying to sell for 120,
I know.
you know?
That's the power of the brand, right?
All that, yeah. Well, you'll
Yeah,
get there with
yeah,
nutrient.
yeah. We're trying real hard. So, yeah, it's been fun. It's been
Marketing
fun
wise,
journey.
do you try and get into, uh, I mean, there are survival experts out there and there are online influencers that are survivalists I mean, do you have endorsees that help promote
Mhm.
the product?
Yeah, totally. So our positioning on our survival food, our emergency food, is this idea of special ops grade nutrition, and the idea is um, that the military has studied for many years what it takes to fuel soldiers so that they're effective in combat and in training for that matter, but mostly in combat. Uh, the guys that are the best of the best, the special operations forces, SOF, I'm talking Rangers, Green
CEOs.
Berets, SEALs, Marine Raiders, these guys, Delta, they require the military has designed and directed their rations to be uh, nutrient dense. So the military has 26 nutrients. We have 40 nutrients, but the military has 26 nutrients, and these are the nutrients and the levels that are required in a ration that's going to go to a special operations person for elite force. And so we've taken that same standard and we have designed our product to that standard, actually to exceed that standard by about 2.5 times. So we call it special ops grade. So that positioning in my background in the military, I've done a few high speed, low drag things myself. So, I really got involved with bringing on Green Berets and SEALs and Delta guys, Marine guys, onto our, call it, ambassador staff. So I call them warrior advisors. And they've been wonderful partners and help get the brand off the ground. There's preppers as well. Preppers are sometimes they're not as physically adept and as special operations forces, but they are, they're smart people. So we've enrolled kind of both angles. The special operations guys, from an endorsement standpoint, this is the stuff that I use, that I like, and the the preppers as well, to provide credentials and endorse the products as, these are legit. These are different than everything else that's out there.
Yeah.
If you want to survive, this is the kind of stuff to get. So yes, long answer to your question, but yeah, it's been a big part of the strategy.
Because I would think that, and maybe I don't, the prepper is kind of an internal world. Like I mean, there are people that prep. And it's just, I feel like we're a minimalist on the prepping. It's like, I've got some food. We'd be good for a couple of days. I got water. I got purifiers. I got, like I said, living in the RVs kind of gives me a different perspective. But then there are extreme preppers that prep every portion of their life. And your food, I guess is it kind of that niche world? Like once you're in, and
it is. I mean, there's a lot of people, as I talked about before, a lot of people that think they're going to be impacted but aren't ready. And even if it's a little bit, it's better than nothing. I think in general, you should have about 3 days worth of food and water, and then add on to that. One of the most shocking things about this business, coming into this business, like I said, I wasn't a hardcore prepper. I know how to, navigate. I know how to communicate. I know how to survive in situations through my military training. But so I was never worried about this stuff, and probably was my eyes closed to a lot of, the realities that are out there in front of us. So prepping was different. It was going to Costco and loading up on stuff, right? Get a big bag of rice if something happens. Okay. So, but one of the most amazing things about preppers is you never stop prepping. You never stop being ready and adding layers. So my repeat customer is about 40%. 40% of the people that buy from me once come back and buy again, and then they buy again and they buy again, and they just keep coming back. It's awesome. It's amazing, because they don't have, number one, they don't have all the money that they want today to get everything that they want to be ready with.
Yeah, sure.
But next month they'll get paid again. The month after they get paid again. So let me go buy a can of eggs or a can of milk, or something that I can put away. And food's one dimension of it. You've got, think about generators and fuel and water source. Then you get the mega rich like Mark Zuckerberg, who's building a bunker. You mentioned Hawaii. He's building a $200 million bunker in Hawaii. So this isn't like the fringe crazy people. This is Mark Zuckerberg. No. Okay.
Yeah. And there are, we've definitely seen some bunkers. So once you kind of, YouTube is kind of weird in that rabbit hole world. You start watch one video and you're like, oh, what's that? What's that? Hey, what's that? And you see some massive preppers, huge 3,000 square foot underground bunkers that they're going to live their family and their extended family. And
Realtor.com, over the past month and a half, I've received 2 emails, and I don't think it's because they profiled me. I really don't. But mainstream emails to me that have highlighted the number of people that are moving or that are preparing with off-grid locations, bunker locations. I mean, this is like just out of the blue, a Realtor.com thing comes through. Okay. And then I got one the other day, again, about people in California that are doing it out of necessity because it's more affordable. So they're living underground because it's a fraction of what it would cost to live above ground, and they're saving money so that they can get above ground. These are the types of things that are happening out there. It's interesting.
Yeah, I think we've hit the population crux where, I mean, it's kind of weird. Like I look back, in California had like 19 million people when I was in high school, and now it's over 40 million. Now we have more people in California than the entire country of Canada. And we're net populating negative now for the last couple
Yeah.
of years
Hmm.
because of our politics. But we have so many people, it doesn't even matter. It's like, oh yeah, we lost 500,000. It's like, yeah, but we gave birth to 400,000, so we're negative 100,000 people out of
I, I,
40
I
million.
think that the population, I think we're on the verge of a population crisis.
Yeah,
If
that's
you've
what we're
traveled,
talking about a lot.
yeah, yeah, Russia, I just came back from the Far East earlier this year. My son was swimming out there. I mentioned that he swims a lot, and he was able to get a swim meet out in Tokyo. And so I went out there and I've never seen Japan before, but they are so concerned with the declining population. China as well. China now is rethinking their one child strategy.
Yeah.
They may have already relaxed it. I don't know. Russia, the same boat. Um, the United States, the same thing. And it's one of the things with the immigration, whether you like it or not, it is adding people to our call it
Everything.
population base.
Yeah. Consumers and workforce. So
Yeah, yeah.
I
No,
know in
I don't like the
Japan,
approach.
some of the southern islands of Japan, I had heard that they were actually paying people to move back in because people were leaving the young kids were leaving the farming areas and going up to Tokyo or Kyoto or some of the bigger cities.
Right.
They were just leaving these towns, and now there's no one farming. Like that's
No,
a problem.
and these our economies are going to be crushed from lack of product, lack of workers. We're burning through the baby boomers, and we're onto the Gen Xers now that are going to be the next aging generation. And man, I tell you, I think we're going to have a lot of empty places without people to fill the jobs, without people to fill the houses. Like I said, United States being a net gainer in terms of immigration, we probably have a little more time than a lot of other countries. But my dad came from a family of 7, my mom from a family of 5, 6. I've got 2. I don't know how many you got. I know, but
Too. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of that way.
In Italy, they're selling homes for $1. Uh,
Wow.
you can buy a house in Italy. Now you have to commit that to rehab it, and it's going to, and they're estimating 40 to $50,000 to rehab the house and make it. But your lot property and the skin is $1.
Wow.
They can't even sell them for $1. I'm like, holy Christ! I have tear down properties for $1.5 million.
You need to pack up the bags and move. So, but anyway, no,
Out of all the places you've lived in, between the army and then for work, all the different things for work, what's the most influential place you visited?
lived in or visited.
Visited.
Visited. Influential. Um, hmm. Well, I think that probably the place that I have the most amount of love for, and I love being out here. I grew up out west, but I love Maryland. I love Maryland. I love being on the Chesapeake, the romance of the Chesapeake, the the water, the wildlife. It was a beautiful area. So I was on the eastern shore of Maryland, and I love that place. And it influenced me, I think, the greatest, not only because you were a stone's throw away from DC, from
Yeah.
Baltimore, from Philly. I mean, the heartbeat of America on the East Coast, man, I tell you, it's just different. It's different being out west. By the time we get up out here, they've been up for 3 hours and the world's been turning, you know?
Yeah.
And I really feel like the inertia of the United States is carried by what's happening on the East Coast largely. West Coast for different reasons, Hollywood and other things, but Silicon Valley technology and what have you. But yeah, I mean the financial center, politics, um, the commerce that's so heavily developed, right? Everything. Yeah, and then that was just such a perfect place because you had all of that, but it really was a piece of freedom on the Eastern Shore. And my place had an acre on the water, cornfields on all sides, and I loved it. I mean, it was paradise for me. So anyway, um, yeah, I think that's probably the most influential.
And my daughter went to Towson and graduated from
Cool.
Towson. And it's weird that it's, her and her fiance, soon to be husband, he went to University of Maryland. They both love it back there. They don't live, they're here in the West Coast. They came back after they graduated, but they both still talk very fondly about Maryland. And I visited, but living there is different.
Yep, it is. The water, the temperature is nice, the climate's nice. I think technically it's part of the South, believe it or not. It feels very north, but I think technically the Mason-Dixon line um, had Maryland part of the South, where the Eastern Shore, big areas for Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, Underground Railroad, all that stuff was right in that area. It's a lot of history. It's just it's a fascinating place, and the wildlife. Like I said, I love animals, and seeing bald eagles come down and grab
Fish.
stripers out of the lake or out of the bay, out of the river. Um, it's different. Osprey coming up every year, and just knew spring was around the corner when the osprey would show up and start building a nest right in front of your house. It was very, very cool. I miss that.
You have to get back. You won't get that, and the thing you get in Reno is different weather by the hour.
Pretty much. You know it. Yeah, I mean, Lake Tahoe is right around the corner. It's close, and that makes up for a little bit of my longing. But still, it's about an hour up to the lake.
Yeah,
Great
I lived
skiing
in
and
State Line for a while, uh, right before I moved over to the Bay Area. So I lived in Sparks, and then I moved up to State Line,
mhm,
next to South Lake Tahoe. Everyone,
sure,
Lake
yeah,
Tahoe. I was actually on the Nevada side,
right on. I love
and
it.
I didn't like paying the taxes, but
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
no,
yeah. So I love Tahoe. Was awesome. I
it's a
mean,
beautiful place.
I was single. I was BK before kids, so I had a lot
There
of
you go. Good place to do it.
exactly. And go to Mount Rose and all that. But I mean, in Reno, down in the valley there, you would get rain, 80, 90-degree weather, then you'd get hail, and then you would get rain, and then you would get 90-degree weather again.
Okay, so Friday was 70.
Yeah.
Saturday, I was putting on chains
Yeah.
on my car. Okay, so that we could get over the mountain and visit Tahoe. It was insane. I mean, we had literally had like 8 inches of snow, and the day before it was 70 degrees.
Yeah.
Okay, and today it's a little blustery, but beautiful.
Yeah. You got the wind. We were windy
Yeah,
yesterday. We had, or 2 days ago, we had 30 mile an
yeah,
hour winds. So,
yeah, yeah.
but
So
yeah, it's just weird. That's that's
yeah.
the, where would you, if you won your own contest with your 10 grand of freedom, where would you camp out? What would be
Mm,
your little,
well, yeah. I mean, uh, I really have if I could completely disconnect, I probably would maybe get back east. There's something about that area that I've just fallen in love with. Yeah. But this is where my job is. This is where I have to be here. I moved for the job, but my heart, a big piece of it's still back east.
got it?
Yeah,
I know that's
does it to you.
it's like I'm based a West Coast guy my whole life, but it makes you, ever since I started visiting my daughter back in Tennessee, you start, it's just a different lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Different.
yeah, you bet,
Uh,
you bet.
what's the best way for people to see what nutrients got coming up? Do you like the
Yeah, sure, sure. So we have a great website, nutrientsurvival.com. And on that website, you can check us out and see that we're not just selling stuff. We're actually truly into this idea of freedom. And we're really committed to it. We've got a new book that we just put out called Eat to Think, and you can get a free download of this. Or if you want to go to Amazon, you can get a copy there. And in it is a cool roadmap for brain longevity. The problem these days is we're living longer. Our bodies are carrying longer through this this lifespan of ours, but our brains are not keeping up. You've got 1 in 3 people dying with dementia, some form of it. My mom literally passed a couple of weeks ago, and she was going downhill very, very fast, and it's just really hard to see. But it doesn't have to be that way. Only 3% of our brain health is genetic. The other 97% we control with nutrition and physical exercise, mental, all that. So we've got a lot of information on the website to learn more about us in that respect. And please get the book. but nutrientsurvival.com is a great spot to check us out. We have, YouTube channel out there with some crazy stuff, and Instagram, and we'd like to get the word out. We're trying to get the word out that people can eat better, people can break free, and they can have more fulfilling, healthier lives by the choices that they make every day, the things that they put in their mouth every day. But yeah, we'd love to come out there. And just for you, if people want to take you up on a travel 15 promotion code, they can get 15% off everything. That will be, travel 15, and that'll save them 15%. There's already some great deals out there, but if you want to get started in survival food, the kind of survival food that's going to last you and equip you with a sound body and mind, we're the place to come.
Well, and then in September's the cutoff for the 10K freedom deal.
That's right.
Yeah. I would love to talk to you again at some point, because I have I turn 57 next month. Do you ever feel like you wish 45 years ago that my parents did the best they could with the knowledge that they had.
Yeah.
Right. And the food was unfortunately so much better for us back then, less processed and everything else. I feel like I let my kids down. And I told them that. I said, like, I didn't do it on purpose, but I saw the food pyramid and I said, let's do that. And then you go, it's not the food pyramid anymore.
It's not. It used to be so simple. They came out with this My Plate thing, which I think totally confused people.
Yeah.
And, oh, by the way, I don't know. I just don't trust the government anymore, what they tell me. I'm sorry. Okay. But if we eat like our ancestors did, we'll be okay. I love whole milk. I'd like meat. I have no problem with butter. I don't slather it on everything, right? But eating whole, nutritious food is the best way to go. And a lot of people can't afford it, unfortunately, but we substitute Twinkies for fruit.
Yeah,
and and it's just become a way of life, and it's so convenient, and it's so cheap also. There's a whole concept, and I'd love to talk to you more about it, but it's called the Dorito effect. There's a guy who wrote the book called the Dorito effect. Mark Schatzer's his name. And being in big food for 25 years, we designed our food to do one thing, and that was to get you hooked.
Yeah.
To get the consumer coming back to buy more, and to make it very craveable. So we would design our food to add sugar, add salt, add fat, and each of those things, because we have taste buds, we love all those things.
Yeah.
And your liking score, it was all about optimizing your liking score, getting the highest liking score. Talk about food development before you put a product out. You want it to sell, and you want to sell again and get people hooked. That was the goal. And then do it as cheaply as possible. So you load it with artificial this and artificial that, because the real stuff is expensive.
Expensive, yeah. It's not always in season. That's a lot of people don't realize. Food, the fruits and vegetables that we eat, they're not always in season. So if you see a cucumber or whatever in January, well, guess what?
Right.
That got brought in from somewhere else.
Thousands of miles, probably.
Yeah. They got picked early so it could ripen while it was traveling.
Exactly.
So it didn't get
that's where
vitamins, the whole thing. It's a bizarre kind of world we live in.
You can take it back, and that's why we've had to fortify. And we fortify because it's a great way to get the nutrition that you need.
Because my dad passed away with Alzheimer's conditions a couple years ago, and it started with dementia. And the doc was like, if he just lays off the Diet Coke and eats better, he can reverse it. He can actually get his cognitive skills back, and he just wouldn't do it. Yeah. In his late 70s, I like my Diet Coke. It's like, can't drink water. Right. And then you go to McDonald's, and it's $1 for any size Coke product that you want, or it's $1.80 for a bottle of water.
Right, exactly. Because the syrup is so much cheaper.
Of Coke for $1, or 12 ounces of water for almost twice as much.
Well, Pete, this is a rich subject, and we can talk a lot about it. But a great place to start is get the book. It reads like 10th grade. It's 158 pages. We've done all the hard work, all the research. And what it preaches is 6 pillars of brilliance. 6 pillars of brilliance. Starts with nutrition, physical exercise, mental exercise, sleep, reducing your stress, and get somebody to love you. Okay. Somebody or something to love you. That's an important part of it as well. Practice those things early. It's like a bank account. Start doing it today. But dementia is not our destiny.
No.
Cognitive decline is not our destiny. Your brain was designed to last your entire life. And unlike other parts of your body, there's this thing called neurogenesis, where your brain can regenerate, not deteriorate, but you have to give it proper nutrition. Omega-3 is the most important nutrient. All those nutrients are important. There's other ones that are more brain targeted nutrient, but omega-3, fish-based omega-3 at that. There's quality of omega-3. There's plant-based omega-3 called ALA. You can eat all the plants in the world and it will convert at about a 10% rate into the EPA and the DHA omega-3 that you need, that you only get from fish. But that's the whole, yeah, do we want to be successful and have a great business? Yes. But we want people to live a rich, fulfilling life with full cognitive function. And that's what this whole product line's about. It's not survival food. It's survival with a big S, survival food. Yeah.
I'm so with it. But that like I said, that's where I get mad at the FDA and everybody else. Like, you really approve that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
Well, you'd have been proud. You'd have been proud. Down at Expo West, we had our booth. Didn't say brain care. Didn't say nutrient survival. It said they lied to us. That was it.
You didn't have to say who they was.
They did, and
Say
everybody
who
had a
us
different
was.
interpretation of who they was. If you're on the left, or you're on the right, or if you're in the middle, everybody had different. They did. Yes, they did. I mean, anyway, then we would tell our story about how, look,
That's a good hook, though.
you can take control. You can take control. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Well,
you, Pete.
I'll get everybody over Travel 15 for a discount on any of the nutrient survival products. You got the book, you got the land you're giving away.
What else could you ask for?
It's not the love.
That's it. That's it. Pete, thank you so much for having me. It's been great getting to know you. I've really appreciated your work and getting to know you as a person through your work with a podcast and also your Instagram. You're really into the AI thing. You look fantastic with those AI generated images of you.
Well, that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, it is. Well, you still look fantastic, but you're taking good care of yourself.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Eric. And right. I'll make sure to have all the links and everything provided on my website as well. So,
all right.
Get you some rest.
Thanks, Pete.
Thanks, Eric.
God bless.
Good day, man.
All right. God bless.